Organizational practitioners. So what we want to do today is to have a discussion on organizational development practitioners. So if you remember from the previous lecture, we were discussing what is organizational development, and we said that it is a process, not an event, where we apply a broad range of behavioral science knowledge to improve the effectiveness of an organization and build its capacity so that it can adapt to the changes. And when we discuss organizational effectiveness, we discuss it's about the performance. It could be financial performance, it could be customer satisfaction, it could be about employee engagement. We understood that organizational development is a fairly new concept because it emerged in 1940s, and the father of organizational development is Kurt Lewin. So in the previous lecture, we had a look in the basic concept of the organizational development, where we see the world has become very volatile, very uncertain, very complex, and very ambiguous for the business managers. Because given the fact that business operations have stretched out all over the world, if you discuss the supply chains all around the world, they have been so stretched out that the business managers have to take into account what is happening at the global level. And when we discuss organizational development, if we talk about an organization A, and it is going to bring some transition or it is going to bring some transformation, they have to rely on something called organizational development practitioner. So what we have discussed so far, there are certain role demand of organizational development practitioners. So the very first thing, is it going to be an internal practitioner or an external? So when we discuss OD process, we understand organizational development is a broader term and change management comes under organizational development. So when we discuss the organizational development practitioner, we can either hire someone from within the company who can help us with this transformation process, or we can go for a market expert. Now both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. If we go for someone who is within the company, who is already working for the company, and we see that he or she has a set of skills that can bring the transformation to the company. So the first advantage with internal organizational development practitioner is that they are familiar with the organization. So they are familiar with the organization. So that's the first advantage that you get. The second thing, they already have built a relationship with the people. The third thing, they understand the processes in the organization. Compare with someone who is coming to work with you from outside the company, and it will take time for an external organizational development practitioner to integrate with the company. So these are some of the advantages of having an internal OD practitioner. But some of the disadvantages could be that once OD practitioner come from within the company, they can be influenced by the managers. It is highly likely that the managers that they are working with right now, they'll be able to influence the actions or decisions. The second thing, there could be self-interest. There could be a component of self-interest, and internal OD practitioners might not be so involved in the overall improvement of the organization. They might be just involved in their personal interests. The third thing, of course, subjectivity. So it is highly likely that the internal OD practitioner might become subjective or biased at some point. They might overlook or ignore some of the potential issues in the organization. So we understand, so we understand these are the advantages and disadvantages of the internal OD practitioner. Now if we compare it with the external OD practitioner, someone who comes from outside the company, that person will be more objective. Someone who is coming from outside the company as an OD practitioner will be more objective, and he'll be more unbiased. Maybe he will be more sort of like he does not have the element of the subjectivity. So that's the first thing. The second thing, he will be bringing market experience. So external OD consultant will certainly have better market experience compared with the internal OD practitioner. So that's the another component. That's the second component that will be an advantage. What else could be the advantage? They might not get influenced. So not be influenced by the the workforce or the leaders who are at the who are already with the company. But when we discuss the disadvantages of external OD practitioner, in disadvantages, we'll be looking at that yes, when they come, it will take time for the integration. They will take time to integrate with the company. It might take a month, 2 months, 3 months, or more than that for the external OD practitioner to settle down and to understand the processes. Second thing, there is a disadvantage of confidentiality. He might be able to exploit the data or the details or information of your company. So you have to be careful with this one. The third thing, that he might not have good relationship with the employees. So that's another thing. So using an analogy, if you want to build your house, you want to construct maybe 2 extra rooms on the top of the roof, and you go and find someone, a contractor from the market, who can come and help you with the construction process. But if it is not so, and if you want to carry out the construction yourself, you might not have enough expertise as an internal OD practitioner to carry out the construction work. For that reason, it becomes very important that you might go for the external OD practitioner who will be able to help you with the process. So we understand so far that yes, OD process requires a lot of attention and is the ultimate test of the leadership. And when we are discussing organizational development process, we have 2 options. Either we go for the external organizational development practitioner, or we hire some expert from within the company. So we understood the very first thing in role demand is internal or external. Either it will be an internal or external OD practitioner. The second thing that we have is called marginality. Marginality is about pushing the boundaries. Pushing the boundaries with the rest of the leaders in the company, where they will be able to go and ask questions to the leaders. So if OD practitioners does not have this capacity of pushing the boundaries and investigating things at different levels, it will be a problem. And we understand that it will be investigated at individual level, group level, and organizational level. So that's the second role demand. If you were to become an OD consultant, you have to take into account that you should have this ability of marginality. The third thing that we understand about the OD practitioners is that emotional intelligence. That is another component which is very important for the OD practitioners. And emotional intelligence means that you have to be self-aware. You must know your strengths and weaknesses. You must know your positives and negatives. And that's the first component, self-awareness. The second thing in emotional intelligence is self-regulation. If you are under extreme stress or you are going through pressure time, you should be able to regulate yourself. You should be able to sustain that pressure. Third thing, sociable. You should be sociable enough to interact with different stakeholders of the organization. You must have, apart from these skills, empathy. Empathy to understand the mindset and to understand the position of other people who are in the organization. And the last thing is motivation. Of course, and motivation is about persistence, it's about passion, it's about trying hard, it's about direction, persistence, and not giving up. So we see that yes, all these things will fall into the category of emotional intelligence. And the last thing that we have here is knowledge about organizational theory. Knowledge about organizational theories. So we have different change management theories that can help us in implementing the change. And we understand John Cotter model is there. We understand ATCAR model is there. So if you see ATCAR model, very simple. You give awareness to the employees first, then create desire, then create knowledge, then give them the ability through training and development, and then reinforce the change. So as an OD practitioner, you must have all these attributes to meet the role demand. But apart from that, there are certain competencies for the OD practitioners that you have to build. And those competencies are important. Why? Because these competencies will take you to the next level, and it will help you in sort of implementing the change effectively, efficiently, and successfully. So the very first one is the intrapersonal communication. As I said, that OD practitioner must have a very sound intrapersonal communication going on, because they have to plan things, they have to conceptualize, they have to analyze things. So that's the very first thing, that you have to have within yourself a very effective intrapersonal communication going on, which gives you the motivation, and of course it gives you the courage that yes, you can take up such a big transformation process and you can implement it. The second thing is interpersonal communication. As I said, that today managers spend 70 to 90% time on interpersonal communication. They engage in a range of communication events every day. Sometimes they're taking the phone call, sometimes they're writing the email, sometimes they're making a presentation as I'm right now. So interpersonal communication is very crucial. Very crucial when it comes to interacting with different stakeholders within the company and dealing with the change that you're trying to initiate or approach. So yes, interpersonal communication. Then consulting skills, that's another thing that you have to build in yourself. Consulting skills will also take you to the next level. It will help you in consulting your in consulting your client, in identifying and clarifying the problems, and in also ensuring that you consult the right client within the company, whether it's an individual, group, department, or the entire organization. And of course, your experience. Your experience will help you in executing the change process or the change that you're trying to bring, be it related to technology, be it related to structure, be it related to strategy. So we understand all these competencies will help you in becoming a successful OD practitioner, be it internal or be it external. So we have understood so far that yes, there is certain role demands of the OD practitioner, and of course there are certain competencies of the OD practitioner. But when you are dealing with this organizational development process, you come across something called unethical behavior. And that unethical behavior is related to some ethical dilemmas. And those dilemmas that we want to understand here, that as a manager, OD manager, you can come across different dilemmas when you are dealing with the organizational change process. The very first one is misrepresentation of data. So if you are misrepresenting data, or if you are engaging in misrepresentation, that can be disastrous for your organizational, I'll just put it to misrepresentation. If you're telling the client that yes, that's not a big deal for me, I can transform or I can change your organization within 2 months time, and you're giving them false hope, you're making tall claims. If you're doing such things, that's a misrepresentation of your skills and your expertise. So if you try and exaggerate your competency level and you say that yes, I'm like a macho man or a superman, I can get things done for you in no time, that's misrepresentation. So as an OD practitioner, never exaggerate, never lie to your clients. Make sure that you're factual, make sure that you're objective. The second thing is misuse of data. So you might be having an access to the data of the organization. Yeah, you might misuse that data. You might think about selling that data. You might think about stealing the laying design or patent or anything related to copyright when it comes to the organization that you're working for. So that's the second area where, as an OD consultant, when you have access to the system of your client, You have to be very cautious, very careful. The third thing that we see is coercion. So if you are forcing the workforce or the people that you're working with your client, if you're forcing them and you're pushing their limits without empathizing with them to meet the deadlines and to meet the targets that you have set for the transition and transformation of the company, that's again unethical. You should not do that. Of course, there can be a value and goal conflict. Value and goal conflict is another thing where your values and the values of the company can conflict, where your goals and the company goals can conflict. So that's unethical. Once you're hired by a company, you're their employee and you have to go by their overall objective or target. So you want to make sure that you do not put their target on the back burner, or your goals or your values should not take over their values or their goals. The last thing is technical ineptness. Technical ineptness. So technical ineptness is was if you're clumsy, if you're not technically sound. So that's what the technical ineptness is. That yes, if you're not technically sound and you're taking up a job that requires a lot of technical attention and set of skills, you should not take up such a job. So you should not lie to your client that yes, I know about the technicalities of the matter. So that's another area where organizational development managers have to fulfill the criteria to become a successful OD practitioner. So we have looked at the rule demand, we have looked at the competencies, and we have looked at the ethical dilemmas that you can face as an OD manager. So I hope that this lecture helped you, and we'll be looking into the next topic, that is entering and contracting. That's our first stage of the OD process, and then we'll keep going with the following stages. So thank you so much. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you with the next lecture.